If anybody remembers traveling, you'll agree that flying on commercial airlines can be inefficient, unpredictable, and exhausting. Boundless was created to raise your transportation expectations by defining a new category of travel, personal aviation. Boundless aims to make your final travel destination more accessible for both pilots and passengers. You can think of it as a charter solution for the environmentally and cost-conscious individual. They are empowering people to move seamlessly between home, work, and play with an elevated mobility solution. Co-founder Ian Gregg isn't new to building startups, but currently has his head in the clouds. Aaron and Elise said something about taking a trip north for some unbeatable Korean barbecue. I'm excited about this, so count me in, and welcome to the stage, Ian.
I am incredibly excited to be here. I just feel grateful that we could be doing this, not just live, but this has been a dream of mine for a couple of years, and to be actually talking to you guys about it, it's almost surreal. I almost feel I need to be pinched or at least have another beer. And yes, Korean barbecue, you could have it. It's very accessible. As far as Boundless, as you mentioned, you gave the kind of the pitch of it. It's really about a personalized way to travel and get to where you ultimately want to get to, not just the commercial airport, but where you're actually going. I'll talk more about that in a minute. My co-founder, Toby, he's in the audience. Hopefully he can come up here for the Q&A. A little bit more about me, just to get to know who I am. 20 plus years in startups and growth companies. I spent the last 14 years in the San Francisco Bay Area. My last project was a software AI company that used machine learning algorithms to do artificial intelligence predictions for sales and marketing teams. Sounds very technical, it was, but it learned a lot about the space. I've been doing tech for a long time. Moved to Bend, Oregon a year and a half ago with my wife. Absolutely fell in love with the area and really wanted to plant roots here. Let's see, a couple other things. I think one thing that's really interesting about Bend is people move here not because it's easy to get to. I think people talk about this being an island. It's very difficult to actually come and go because it's just isolated. But we love it because of all the things you can do. One story for me, if I need to go back to the Bay Area, and I'm sure you guys probably have other stories of how you get around, but it was a bit jarring for me of, say I need to go do a business trip there. Got to wake up an ungodly hour, got to go drive up to Redmond, do TSA parking, waiting at the airport, hopefully the flight's not delayed. You got to get through to Portland, Seattle, do your connecting flight, get to actually San Francisco or San Jose, hope that the Uber or the rental car works out, then fight traffic and actually get to where you're trying to go. And somehow we just accept that this experience is what we have to do to actually get where we want to go. And for those of us that have extra time, we might do this a day early just because we know how exhausting it is. And this is the price we pay for living in an amazing place like Bend. And we're not the only ones that are making this trade-off. Actually, if you look at the trends, people are moving out of the urban centers. People are moving to Tahoe, moving to Bozeman, Flagstaff, St. George, all these awesome Mountain West locations because they also want to make this lifestyle choice of being able to be in an amazing lifestyle location. And it just kind of makes you wonder, how do you accept this mental model of inefficiency that, as I like to call it, the United experience? We sort of accept it, but it's not pleasurable. And it's inefficient. And it's not just inefficient for us as flyers, it's actually inefficient as a mode of transportation. A few stats, 92% of travel is short haul, meaning 1,000 miles or less. So we're not going long distances. The problem with that is it's mainly jet traffic. Most of those short haul flights are still jet. And jets are meant to cruise at high altitude, and that's where they're efficient. On takeoff, they just belch out all sorts of fumes and gas because they just are not efficient at low altitude. 2 to 3x more carbon emissions on those short haul flights than their medium haul neighbors. And so you just wrap your head around this, that we're all focused on these 17 hubs. I mean, I always was proud that when I was in the Bay Area, I lived not too far from the airport, but I still always had to do these connections. And we're flying on these inefficient flights that still are inefficient, unfriendly, TSA, the whole bit. And we just sort of wonder, there's actually over 5,000 public airports in the US. I mean, the Bend has an airport, but I'm just curious, how many people actually have not only aware of that there's a Bend airport, but have actually flown into the Bend Airport? 3. Okay. Not many. And so it makes us wonder, why don't we actually have an option for flying direct? Being able to do it in an environmentally conscious way that actually is of the same level of efficiency as modern cars, as opposed to these jets. And of course, doing it in a way that's accessible economically for the masses. And that's where Boundless comes in. We're focused on that short-haul flight segment, building a network of pilots, planes, and passengers that are focused on this short-haul segment, and building this network that's both the supply and demand of what we actually need to make a sustainable model. All these other models that we've seen usually fall short on actually making a true network, and a lot of them do fail. But what we're trying to create is this new category, call it personal aviation, that's a tweener market between commercial aviation and charter that is environmentally sustainable. So let me just bring this down to you that is in a level that you could approach. Let's say you want to go to Jackson Hole because they just had a great snow dump. If you want to fly domestically on a commercial carrier, you have to go through Salt Lake. It's going to take you about 6.5 hours door to door. And that aircraft is going to have about 350 kilograms of emissions. Fine, whatever. There's no other options. That's just sort of in our head, that's just what it is. Flying with us, that 6.5 hours door to door goes to about 3. Carbon emissions go from 350 to 70. It's actually more efficient than driving a car. Cost-wise, we can do it about the same, 250, just like a commercial airline. Give you another one, if you want to go to Hillsboro for business. If you want to drive it, cut out. It's going to take you about 4 hours. Going with us, it's a little over an hour to Hillsboro, and half the carbon emissions as driving your family SUV. So it just opens up new ways of thinking. Let's go to the California beach today with the kids. Let's go get Korean barbecue in Friday Harbor. Yes, just business trips. This no longer is I have to have 2 different days for traveling or a really long day that I know I'm going to be exhausted from. I can fly same day, do my business trip anywhere on the West Coast, be back with my family same day. We're not the ones that are thinking about this. There's other people that have tried and thought about different models. There's been some low-cost carriers that are working on getting new flights that are focused on these smaller, underserved cities. There's also been a software company that recently launched in the last few years that was trying to build up this sort of network idea, just one side of the network, but they ran into some regulatory problems. They were actually trying to skirt around some of the FAA regulations. We're actually working not only within the bounds of the regulations, but working with the FAA around what we're building with our model. And then the other one is that we do see a lot of jet charter companies that are trying to bring this down. There's been a lot of talk in the pandemic about how do you have better access to charter, and they're trying to play with different business models. But they still inherently have the problem of it being jet charter, very expensive model, and it's going to be really hard to compete and bring it down to the masses. So we're going to win because we're focused on a tweener market. We're focused on aircraft that's going to be a lot more nimble and being able to address people's needs. And we're also building out the full network that these other guys have missed out on in order to build a sustainable model and a model that has network effects. So what does this mean for you guys? We're looking to build our network. So 3 things, pilots, planes, and passengers. So where do you guys fit? Maybe you've thought about wanting to become a pilot one day. Maybe you've wanted to be able to either get your pilot's license, brush off what you used to have, and get your skills brushed up. Maybe you're a current pilot and you would like to be able to fly within our airplanes that we have. Talk to us. Maybe you have a small business and just the accessibility of being able to access different cities you want to get to and the productivity enhancements of being able to fly direct. Talk to us. None of those apply to you, which I'd be surprised if it didn't. Let's just say you had taxable income you wanted to offset. There might be some opportunities to lease back through us and have some opportunities to offset that with some depreciation and get less tax that you would have to pay. So those would be the 3 ways. I know I rocketed through that, but thanks, guys.
Oh, it's so cool. It's so cool, Ian. I'm wondering, like, how does the scheduling work? What do you have a plan? I mean, it's so efficient. So, like, what does that kind of look like? Walk me through it.
So we're just getting started. So we're launching next month. We've got 3 planes coming. And so the idea is to be on demand. So wherever you need to go and you would work with us, we're obviously going to need to build a software app and all those sorts of things. But for now, contact us and we'll get you scheduled.
I am contacting you. Okay. I didn't know we were going to Friday Harbor. It's one of my favorite places. It's so fun. Any questions in the room? Yes.
So is your model, you mentioned that $250. Is there a membership to the company and then the flight fee? Or is it just $250?
In terms of your model, is there
Yeah.
a membership or is it just the in-flight fee?
Short answer is it's going to be depending on what your needs are. So there's certainly a pay-as-you-go a la carte. If you're going to fly more, there's a membership that'll reduce your overall cost, but it'll scale with you and be more appreciative of your demand.
And then I know you wanted Toby to come up. I'm wondering, Toby, if you want to join us. I am curious about the planes.
Okay.
And like that
Absolutely.
experience.
Toby can talk about it. He actually got me my commercial license, so he's one I
he's
learned
the
from.
real deal. Okay, good. So tell us a little bit about the planes.
Yeah, so it's a very exciting time to be flying smaller aircraft, I would say. There's really awesome modern airplanes that are more fuel efficient than ever, that are quicker and they're safer. A lot of the automation we see on our roads with self-driving vehicles and things like that is coming to the air as well, and a lot of that technology is easier to implement. There's no pedestrians walking around up in the skies, right? So beyond what we have today, we expect to see hybrid aircraft in service in the next, within the next 5 years, I'd say, and shortly after that, electric and hydrogen aircraft as well. So the amount of research and development in that space is really exciting to us, but we need end users for those aircraft. So smaller regional carriers like ourselves can be an opportunity to implement that technology far before it's feasible at an airline scale. And that's another thing that makes us very excited.
So cool. Okay, yes.
Can you talk about your third option that you just spoke about?
Can you talk about the third option that you just spoke
In terms
about?
of how to build our network, the taxable income offset. So I'm not a CPA, so I'll just kind of throw that out there. But you either can have it through the business, that you could certainly have an airplane that would have a business use through whatever business you have, and that certainly could be a taxable or a depreciable asset. Or if you didn't, you could certainly still buy the airplane, lease it back to us. We get the business use out of it through our network. And you get not only the income of that lease back to you, but then you have an asset that you could depreciate. That depreciable asset then goes against your taxable income, and your income gets reduced. So it's kind of a win-win.
Bo blah dee, bo blah da. I mean, that's very exciting. Aaron, question.
Talk to me about fuel at the Bend Airport.
Talk to me about the Bend Airport. Yeah, the Bend Airport out east, not Redmond Airport. Bend. The fuel.
You want to talk about fuel? This,
Do you want to talk? Who is talking about fuel?
well, so I mean, we are also building a physical footprint at the Bend Airport to help support this, so that the full experience as a passenger is something you would think of as a modern experience. So there will be a facility there, and we're also, not only having aircraft, but we'll also have our own maintenance and fuel. So actually just last week wrote a check for a fuel farm, so really exciting things. But yes, as part of our operational efficiency and also just serving the community, we'll have a fuel farm and also serve the local pilots there.
I think this is going to be a huge hit with our extreme sportsmen. Yes, sir, in the back.
Wondering, do you guys have dedicated routes that you're planning on hitting?
Do you have?
Curious, like I heard the number like 250. Is that like a person? Is that for a family?
You have people asking for pricing guarantees. Do you have plans for like specific flight patterns, like just West Coast, or like how far can I get on 250?
So we're not a scheduled air carrier, so it's on demand. So wherever you want to go. So our focus is on that short haul market that's 1,000 miles or less. And so draw a circle of 1,000 miles, we'll take you there.
How do you book it?
I guess call me.
Call Toby.
Go to
I
our
want to go to
website.
Ojai. I'm just going to put that out there.
So if you go to flyboundless.com, that's our website.
Flyboundless.com. We have lots of questions. Okay, I'm going to take one more. Like everybody's. I'm going to take your question.
You mentioned 3 planes, so what are the 3 planes?
You mentioned 3 planes. What are the 3 planes?
So that's one of them. Not the exact tail number, but that model. So that's a Diamond DA62, seats 7 people. Will definitely take you on your ski trip to Jackson Hole if you want to. Then we've got 2 smaller aircraft that are more the efficient one. That would be more of that day trip to Portland style that have a lower cost of entry to get into. It's also a Diamond. It's a DA40. Yep.
DA40. And none of them have ashtrays for smoking, I'm going to go ahead and assume.
And no, there's not. Although some of the older aircraft, if you look back at the 60s, they did actually have cigarette and cigar lighters, which I guess if you're cruising at 12,000 feet, having a cigar, it seems appropriate.
I guess.
How come you asked about cigarettes and not dogs?
Oh, yeah. Can dogs use these planes? Can they fly them, too? And my dog needs a job. That's the truth.
I've actually taken my dog up to Washington. I haven't taken her to Korean barbecue, but I've taken my dog before.
I love it. This is so cool. Okay, so flyboundless.com for more information. Lots of options here. You guys are incredible. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
See you later.